videotaping.
All right, we're going to get our third sample ready, like we did with the other two. You can see we went from our very heterogeneous, clumpy soil to this nice, fine powder-like sample. And the reason why we do that is because, first of all, we want a homogeneous sample, so when we subsample, we're getting a representation of the entire sample that we took. So if you think about when we have this clumpy soil, there's going to be a lot of heterogeneity in terms of where the organic matter is located and its concentration. And then similarly with pH, the pH is probably heterogeneous throughout our sample. Second of all, when we break it up into small pieces that can pass through a 2mm sieve, we're making the surface area of the individual soil pieces much altogether much bigger, which allows for that soil organic matter to more efficiently combust when we put it in the furnace at 500. All right? So we have our foil, if you remember when we were massing this a few weeks ago. And actually, we might show these videos on the same date, so let me just say that. Okay.
Seemed like it flows seamlessly.
Yeah. So we have the soil that we massed before and after it was air dried. And what we're going to do is put this straight into our mortar. And now what we want to do is just break this up. So you start out just kind of breaking it up with some forceful but not too forceful hits. Ooh, we got a rock in there. You want to be careful because we don't want to break the mortar and the pestle. So just be gentle but firm enough to break it up. And try not to have any pieces fly out, which you might have just seen. So you can see here with the colors, we have a very non-uniform distribution of iron in our soil. So this is a good example of a wetland soil because of the biogeochemistry going on. Okay. In addition to doing the pounding, kind of grinding the soil with the surface of the mortar is good to get those fine pieces. Remember, don't have anything fly out. So this is kind of like what pharmacists do, right? I lost another piece there. The noises aren't
It's okay, I wanted the chills anyway. That rock, you can take the rock out now if you want. Oh my God.
We end up throwing out anything that doesn't pass through the sieve. So if there are any big rocks that are kind of hindering the grinding process, you can just throw them in the garbage. Okay. That's probably good enough. All right, so now we have our ground up sample that we're going to pass through our 2mm sieve, and we put the sieve on top of foil that has been cleaned after our last sample. And we have 2 layers of foil here because the foil tends to kind of get tears in it after it's been crumpled and handled and, you know, having this heavy sieve on it over time. So we just have that second one as a backup. Okay? So take your mortar, pour it in there. If you want to be really, really thorough, you can get like a wipe and wipe this down to get everything in there. But it's good enough. All right, so this part is just a little bit of shaking and tapping. So you can see that there's a lot of material that didn't pass through the sieve. So these are a bunch of more solid rocks, pebbles that aren't going to break up, and then we have organic material too that we don't want to try to incorporate that into our sample. So this all just gets thrown in the garbage. And we're left with our homogenized sample that we then will put into a pre-labeled bag. And one way to easily get this in the bag, just kind of open it up. If you have someone else helping you hold the bag, it might be a little easier. But then we carefully transfer everything on the foil into the bag. Okay, you can see we still have alright, foil is pretty clean. And now we have our sample for pH measurement and for soil organic matter measurement.